Hey there, my name is B. Welcome to my channel. This is the episode 4 of the Endless Runner. Today we are creating a user interface and close the game loop. I'm going to show you how to connect a user interface with the player and the game. As you can see, here I have a basic user interface with a few text. This is the coins that you're going to collect. This is the distance that you're running, and this is the amount of lives. So I'm going to show you how to connect all of this with the game, with the player, and close the game. In this video, we are only going to work on this part of the UI, but in the next one we will add more stuff, like animations, and when the game ends, or when the game starts with some animations and some more fun. So let's get to work. This is the final result after the end of this video. We run and we see the distance going up. We have 3 lives to start with. We don't have coins, but we will have that in the next videos. We keep running, and then when we fall, we will lose one of the lives. Yep, 2 lives. And that's gonna happen for the 3 of them, and the game will end. The user interface is connected through the runner player controller. That's the best way, in my opinion, to have the user interface, because it's connected to the player, so it makes sense to put it there. If I open the Blueprint runner player controller, there, you can see that I have an editor field with the in-game UE class. This is the widget blueprint that I'm using for the UI. Let me show you what I have. This widget blueprint has some elements like titles, this picture over there, another title, and these 3 elements, they are variables that comes from the in-game UI C++ class. The way I recommend to create user interface is first create the widget blueprint. So let's go back here and then right click, user interface, and create the widget blueprint. We set a name. Okay. Now we have a completely empty one and we can start adding things. So for this example, we have some titles, so I'm gonna go through quickly how to do these elements, but it's not very complicated. You can go further and try to investigate how to do more nice stuff. Okay, let's create a few text, so we can just pack that there, and then, for example, just make these coins. We can use this anchor, and in this case I'm gonna set it there. The alignment, and let's put points. Then we can move this around, and we can, for example, change the size of the title. We can also change the name, the color, and just check all of these properties and play around with this, because you can do things like shadow color, and put that. We can you can change the justification, outline. So you can place an outline, all sorts of things. So just spend some time to have a nice UI, user interface. You can add more text. Another one, we can use this for I recommend using the anchors, because that's the best way to locate things and prevent If we scale this according to the screen, everything will stick on the same place. I do that, the coins is anchored to the center, so it will move along with that. That's important to consider when you create user interface. So for example, this one we can just anchor there and move the alignment and all of that. And this is my result, but you can do something different. Okay, pictures. For example, let's add one picture. Okay, there. Again, you can use, for example, an anchor right there and position, and you can change that. So, for example, that one, and you can use this to change the picture. So let's use this heart. Okay, and it's important to set the proper size of that. So let's do this square. Okay. You can use things like there's an object right there, which is a scale box, and that will help you with the pictures. So this is how I will normally do elements that I don't need to really connect through C++, but for elements that I need to, like these three ones, I usually like to have my in-game UI C++. So let's go back here, and so it's just a normal C++. So I click new C++ class, let's click show all classes, and then type user widget. There. That's the object that you want. And then you just need to set a name. For example, in-game user widget, in-game user UI. For example. And just create the class. Let's move on now to the code. And this is my user, my class, C++ class. And as you can see, I have the coins counter, the distance, and the lives. Those are the three ones that I'm connecting with C++. This is important. They need to be, you have to use this U property and this bind widget, because this is the way Unreal finds elements through connected elements. Then I have some methods that I'm going to use on the player controller or on the game controller, and it's basically to control these elements. So I have one for update coins, update distance, and update lives. And these two ones is for the next video. These are just events that I'm going to use directly on the widget blueprint to make animations. It's going to be very exciting, and that's for the next video. So you can see I have blueprint implementable event, so I'm not implementing this on the CPP, just the blueprint. One for on start game and one for on game over. They don't have C++ implementation, they're just blueprint events. Okay, and the body for all of these methods, very simple. Update coins, I'm just gonna set the test of these coins, and I need to convert the coins from int to a string and use this set text with the coins counter. Important to add this include, because otherwise you cannot use this method. For the distance, similar, we have a float, but in this case we need to do some modification on that float to prevent to have the float number. So I'm just trimming the float to have just one number. So you can use this for that. And the final will be that. So we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because you don't really need the floats. And again, set text. And finally, update lives. Same thing as the coins, it's just the text and convert from int to a string. When you have all of this and you know that these ones properties are going to be connected with the widget, it's important to follow this step. So important to create those three with the exactly same name. So for example, let's take this exact name and let's create a new text. Put it there and set exactly the same name. You need to do the same with the three of them. No, okay. Then this widget blueprint is still not connected with the C++. To do that, but before you connect that, make sure to have all of them to prevent any errors so the editor can close. So just make sure to create them with the same name. Let's go to graph and then class settings, and here in parent class you can select the C++ that you want, and in this case, in my case, is in-game UI. So as you can see, I have all of these elements that they haven't been found because they're in C++. That's what I said. It's important to have them. It's asking for the two of them, so it's easy to fix. Just go get those two and place the same names. Okay, this one going to be this distance counter, and this one the other one. So now I have the three of them, for them to set them in different places and make all of these nice. This is a disaster, sorry about that, but it's just for the purpose of showing you how to use it. So now if I compile, everything compiles. And that's basically what I have here. Three of them with the same names and really nice and lovely. Now let's connect this widget blueprint with the game, or in this case, as I said, with the runner player controller. So the blueprint, here we have the user interface. Right there I have a reference to the C++ class from the widget blueprint, and this is the blueprint itself. So this is the blueprint and this is a reference. So like that I can access to those methods that I created to update the lives and all that. I also have this getter, so I can access externally to this element and set and use those methods externally. And also in the runner player controller I have a few things to help me to control the game. So I have coins collected, current lives, the current distance, and a few methods for that. I have set initial lives. This is the initial lives that the game starts with, in this case 3. And this is when we fall on the oceans. We call this method from the game controller to take one life. And it will give us a reference to if it's the last life or not, so we can know if the game is over. Also, this blueprint event, I'm gonna use this in the last video when we include some coins, but I already prepared all of this to have this code ready. So if you want to, you can already experiment with all of this and thinking how would you include some coins. Okay, so let's check how to connect the widget blueprint with the player controls. So we go to the begin play. Here is when I set the coins collected, the current distance and current lane, and right here is how we create the widget blueprint. Important to always have the node checks, and to get the reference we create the widget with the blueprint and we set the reference. Next, it's important. If this was okay, we call this add to viewport. You can do this on blueprint, but I like this way. You can use this create widget on the player controller blueprint, or create a widget with this one and also use this node. But this is how you do it in C++. And I always like, as soon as I create the widget blueprint, is update all the coins, and in this case it's gonna be 0, 0 and 3 because we call this from game controller. Then set initial lives It's just to set the variable, nothing there. Take life. We set this is a reference, so it's not a copy, it's a reference, so it will change the value. I could have just set this function as a boolean, but I decided to do it this way because it's more readable. I understand that I'm gonna return as a reference parameter if it's the last life or not. It was just a decision, but you can just set this a boolean or have another method to check if it's the last one or not. And it's basically just to remove one of the current lives. If it's the last one, then it's the last life and game is over. And finally, we could update lives with that one. We also have uncolored coins, and we do the same. We add one collected coin and we update that. As I said, this is going to be called when we have coins. As soon as the player collides with one of the coins, we will call this method, and through the player controller, this widget blueprint will be updated. For the distance, we go to the player tick. Here's this part over there. So if we are running, and if the game is running, we haven't fall or all of that, we just use the delta sign for the current distance, and we update the in-game. And finally, I have one more function from the previous video, which is for the respawn and it's to close the game loop. This is going to be called from the game controller, and what I do is I set the current lane in the middle, I reset the current distance but not the coins, and I finally update again the coins and the distance. Right now we have the widget blueprint connected with the player, so we're ready to go to the game controller and close the game loop and use the widget blueprint. Okay, on the game controller, as if you don't remember, is the one that controls the game logic and the game loop. For that, remember that I have these states, so I switch between them and just to control the game. And I really like this system because enums are very readable and it's a really nice way to control things. So this is the way I like to work, and I really recommend to use enums. Okay, so on the game controller, one of the properties that I have is the player lives. This is the initial player life, so a designer could come and increase that number of lives and set them to make the game easier. If we go to the begin play, the first thing is to set the state of the game to prepare the game, prepare for platforms. Then remember we are just doing in the initialization of the platforms, spawning them and all of that. After that, right there we set the initial lives with those initial lives with that U property. And after that we have the game and use this state to prepare the game. Next thing is we have this onRespawn method. This is just to have some space between the spawning of all of the platforms and the player and all the settings. So this is just to have a small check, prevent any kind of visual errors and all of that. Okay, on respawn, we clear the timer, and I have here a check for the states. So if we are in prepare game, this is basically the initial state. We call the onStart game, and this is going to be for the next video, but we can prepare that. So when we call that in the next video, you will see that I have an animation with 3, 2, 1, very nice. So we do that, and then we set the game to respawn. This is a way for me to call it. You can use another state, but this basically means that the game is basically ready to start. And I have the timer. So what happens right after the initial setup is I call this timer, respawn after 3 seconds. That's the moment when you see 3, 2, 1, that will be in the next video. So what's gonna happen is after 3 seconds, it's gonna call this method again again and use this state. So we need to go to this state, just right there. And what we do is call respawn on the player to set the current distance and all of that. Command the player to start running and set the game to running. And this will activate the tick on this game controller. Okay, and tick. Tick, as I said, only happens when this state isn't running. Remember, we do all the logic to check the player has reached the next platform. We destroy one, we spawn one, and the important bit is basically this one. So if the player has reached the ocean, so it's at the floor position level, we command it to stop running and we take one of the lives. And this is when we check if it's the last life or not. If it's the last life, we set the game state to game over and we call on game over, which will have a nice animation in the next video. And that's the end of the game. If not, we set the state to remove platforms, which means basically destroy all of them and start from the first platform. And we do the same, we call after 1 second on respawn method. Let's go back to that method to see what this state is doing. There, on respawn, we are in this state. This is basically when we still have some lives. We take the first platform and we do this loop to go through all of them and destroy all of the platforms. So this is very interesting. I'm using instead, because I don't have a list, what I have are pointers to link all of the platforms together. I use this method to destroy all of them. So I take the next one, and if it's not null, I basically destroy that one. And I go through all of them until this is null. And finally, I need to destroy the first one. So I basically start destroying from the second one until there is none left. And then I obviously need to destroy the first one. And this is it, first platform. Then I call again this initialize game, so I will respawn again all of the platforms with the logic and all of that. And I set the game to prepare again. Finally, I call on respawn and the whole game loop will start again. And that's the whole logic for the game loop, the widget blueprint, and that's it for this video. Let's go to the game and play one more time. We can keep jumping and then we fall and lose one of the lives. Another one. We still have 2 left, I think. The distance is going up. And I believe this is the last one. So when we fall for the last time, there is no respawn and the game is over, and we will see that an animation with the widget blueprint. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget that you can get the project files if you support me on Patreon. And finally, please subscribe, share, like, it helps. See you next time on the next video. Bye!